I would use it
Right.
pre-contest for maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, depending. I just think the younger guys now on TikTok all want to use it all year round, right? It's an excuse to not eat well, right? Because you can.
It is. I mean, you do everything wrong and you still get results. Welcome to Vigorous Podcast. Today I'm joined by a new guy on the block, Kurt Havens. I've seen you on Todd's podcast and Paul's podcast, and I felt left out, so I wanted to get you on board here. And let's talk about some pharmacology.
Cool.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve.
Anytime.
What do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's do an introduction first, because I'm familiar with your work. But, you know, for the people who are not familiar with the Kurt, please let us know how you got started with pharmacology. And I mean, I believe you have or you're going for a PhD. And you have, you know, some background in this. So
yeah, I was pre-med a long time ago, graduated college a long time ago. And I then changed industries. Both my parents were in that industry. And I switched industries to something entirely different. And I stayed in another industry for about 15 years. And then during COVID, I decided to get back into this. And I did my master's in chemistry, and then MD, PhD is where I currently am in endocrinology. Yes, it's kind of been a long road. I've always done the fitness thing on the side. And I'm blessed now that I can coach full time while I'm going to school.
All right. So you're completely self-sufficient now. Huh? Yeah. Cool. Welcome to the team. I mean, we need more smart guys like you to, make sure that everybody stays on the path. Because
when I picked to do endocrinology, I went on TRT at the age of 39, and it made such a difference in my health.
Yeah.
That I was really disappointed with the information that was out there. And I felt like with my background, it made more sense to me to pursue this and kind of bring to light some of the truth about a lot of these chemicals, and between that and competing, you were around this stuff all the time, but there's such garbage out there. You and, and Leo and Derek were kind of the first ones to really dive into this stuff.
Right. No. Yeah, at least publicly. I mean, when you go to Professional Muscle, these guys were talking about this just for decades already, but never in the public eye. Like Dr. Scott Stevenson, for example, he's one of our go-to smartest guys in the fitness industry, but he's rarely, besides Think Big Bodybuilding and some podcast collaborations, he's not as out there as guys like me and Derek. Yeah. And then, of course, now you and Paul and Todd, right? And everybody, Chase, everybody's just becoming a little bit more aware of what's going on from a medical perspective, but also when it comes to the basic biology, because I mean, the bodybuilding space is so full with bro lore. And some of it turned out to be true, but a lot of the stuff just, I don't know, such garbage. I mean, even in anabolics, we should maybe start there. Like James Llewellyn or William Llewellyn anabolics books. I mean, when you look at the anabolic to androgenic ratio and ratings of Trenbolone acetate versus Nandrolone acetate, and then you try to research it, you're like, wait a minute, this is not correct at all.
No, it's It was started in the 50s, and you can't really, a lot of that, the science back then doesn't really translate into what we do now.
Yeah. So we all think that Trenbolone is 5 times more anabolic than testosterone, but even the anabolic to androgenic rating, it has not been established on testosterone versus Trenbolone. It was Trenbolone versus Nandrolone. And when you try to find that Hirschberger bioassay, you can't even find it.
No, it's not. A lot of this stuff's not public access anymore.
No, right. But even then, on the Kokian book, right, that's like 300 pages where most of these Hirschberger bioassays has been cataloged based on animal studies. You also see that they don't use the anabolic to androgenic rating. They use the anabolic to androgenic dissociation. Yep. And this, I think the anabolic to androgenic rating is like an interpretation of Llewellyn for this anabolics book. And it's become bro lore, and everybody agrees to this now. Like, okay, the anabolic and androgenic rating of Masteron is a little bit lower. The androgenic rating is a little bit lower, so thus it can't cause hair loss. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. The hair loss has nothing to do with the levator ani muscle, right, or the ventral prostate. But this is how the interpretation kind of, what is that what we used to do in school, where you whisper into somebody's ear, and then by the time it comes back into the class, it's something entirely different.
Totally different. Yeah, it's how many hats did the monkey have or whatever.
Exactly.
Total, it's total garbage. Yeah, and the problem is it's not. It not only does it not those muscles that are being compared. So rats killed and then it's taken apart, and the muscles that they're using to generate these ratios aren't relevant necessarily to human skeletal muscle. Right. So, I mean, even on the most basic level, it doesn't really apply. Like Trenbolone doesn't build 5 times the amount of muscle as testosterone.
It doesn't. No. I mean, it has some overlap in the glucocorticoid receptors and the corticosteroid receptors, and potentiate some preventing catabolism in a caloric deficit. But that's of course an entirely different subject.
I'm not even looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I saw a podcast with you with Todd, and then you talked about Masteron as a selective estrogen receptor modulator, and Primobolan not entirely being an aromatase inhibitor, but maybe some of its metabolites. So maybe we can get started there.
Sure.
Because I remember, but I think me and Derek, we kind of came to the conclusion a couple of years ago that Boldenone could potentially lower serum estradiol levels, and Primobolan could lower estradiol levels, and everybody already knew that Masteron could lower it. But when you really start looking into it, it's not just Boldenone or Primobolan, it's metabolites as well.
Yep. Same with tamoxifen is the same way too. The drug itself is relatively useless. It's its metabolites that are doing the work.
Yeah, you have 3 metabolites, right? You have endoxifen, amimoxifen, and then norendoxifen. And the first two are selective estrogen.
Very long half-life too.
Yeah, very long half-life, right? And that's why the detection time is like 45 days, which sucks.
Yes, totally.
I used to deal with that shit all the time, but not so much anymore. So the first 2 are like selective estrogen receptor modulators, and the third one is actually a very potent aromatase inhibitor. Yep. So it's a prodrug. But the weird thing is, it's not as good as a SERM, because Nolvadex doesn't seem to raise LH and FSH levels as much as Clomid does, which also has 2 stereoisomers. So this is why I found it very interesting when you started talking about Todd. It's finally somebody who gets it. It's just not that one compound. It's a multitude of compounds that metabolize downstream. So
and when you look at any of these drugs, even Trenbolone, you don't just look at the base chemical. You have to look at what it's metabolizing to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So what is the story with Masteron and its potential for selective estrogen receptor modulator?
Kind of where we stand right now. We're still working on this. Where it looks like you have an alpha and a beta receptor for estrogen. And it looks like it's an agonist of the ERB receptor, so estrogen receptor alpha is kind of the one that causes a lot of the issues.
Right.
And so by agonizing the beta receptor, it kind of blocks the effects of the alpha receptor. So that's kind of where we are now. So it seems then, because it's not, in theory, it shouldn't be lowering serum estradiol. It should just be blocking the receptor by doing that. So in theory, if you were to use it concurrently with like growth hormone, Masteron would make more sense than Primobolan.
Okay, because you don't miss out on this potential for IGF-1 secretion downstream in the liver. Right?
And again, that's still debatable. I'm working on a project too with estrogen as well and growth hormone, and it's the effects in humans are not quite the same as cattle, and I think that's where a lot of the data goes wrong. Is that we compare what goes on in these cows with estrogen to humans, and they have a totally different effect with estrogen. But we could do another video entirely on that. And it looks like Primobolan, so there were 7 new metabolites just discovered a couple months ago of Primobolan,
right?
Which is mind-blowing.
I found the paper of metenolone acetate.
Yes, that's it.
It has about that's the one, right? So it's like 5 to 7 metabolites that are in. And then I looked through the metabolites, and I'm like, 5 androstenedione.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah,
and the other one also has some sort of aromatase inhibiting effect.
Yes. Yeah. So there were 6 known, right? From 1962 to current times, there were 6 known metabolites, and they just discovered 7 more.
7 more? Oh, wow. So there's what, 13?
It's 13 now metabolites of Primobolan. And the first 5 of those new 7 ones are relatively benign in what they do.
Right.
It's the last 2 that are kind of cool. So the last one blocks TNF alpha, which is an inflammatory response. So where I think the research is headed is they want to use either that metabolite or Primobolan as a possible replacement for cortisone, right? So instead of injecting it into someone who has a chronic inflammation and long-term destroying the tissue, perhaps we can actually build the tissue at the same time as blocking the inflammation.
All right. But where that goes, I don't know. If you go deep enough, like we have a lot of scientific evidence that shows that vitamin C and some of these other inflammatories might blunt the post-exercise stress response. Now, if you're on steroids, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I've been megadosing vitamin C for all its benefits for years now, and I still got big. But you might think then that if you megadose the Primobolan, that you're also missing out on some of this anabolic signaling that happens post-workout.
You could be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential there. So that's kind of where that left off. So people can understand, they use acetate because it metabolizes easier, and they use basically fungus to metabolize it. It mimics what goes on inside the human body. With hydroxylase. So it was just a faster way to get this process rolling versus like put it through an animal and see where it goes.
Right.
And the cool thing is the 6 1 out of 7 new metabolites produces an AI called Atomastane. And Atomastane, Atomastane,
Okay.
Yeah. And that actually seems to be a suicide AI as well. I'll send you the data on this. It's pretty cool.
That's fucking crazy.
What quantity is present, I don't know.
Right. So what I always figured is, of course, Primobolan, Masteron, they're DHT derivatives, and DHT has been shown to reduce the conversion of testosterone into estradiol. And then maybe due to the chemical structure, the Masteron and the Primobolan has a higher affinity or capability to enter the aromatase enzyme and just selectively block this conversion process. But it appears that some of its metabolites are also doing the same thing, which was also determined with Boldenone. Like Boldenone itself metabolizes into estrone in some individuals. And then this estrone can then in peripheral tissue convert into estradiol.
Yes.
But because it also has some metabolites, I think
ADD,
aromatase, right? That's the one that you actually use as a selective or suicide aromatase inhibitor. And then 1 or 2 more, Boldenone, something like that. And those are actually also quite potent aromatase inhibitors. So it's so funny that everybody, of course, has a different genetic makeup and how they express all this. Effect. Right. So we all get a different effect. That's why sometimes you see people not get reduced estradiol levels. And then they're wondering, like, is my Masteron real? Is my Boldenone real? Is my Primo real?
Yeah, it's
just
genetic,
different metabolism.
Polymorphic, Yeah, we're all totally different.
That is very. So they're investigating this now to see if it has any practical applications in medical or just like preliminary, what they're trying to look at to see if it can be synthesized in some sort of way.
My understanding is for medical use.
Yeah, for medical use. Okay. Yeah. I saw that recently they had some sort of Pregnenolone metabolite, Zuranolone, and it was a very potent GABA A1 receptor agonist, and they want to use this as a sleep aid. And it just metabolizes normally like all non-steroidal neurosteroid hormones. So it has a benign effect, but in its time that it's in its active metabolite, Zuranolone, if I pronounced it correctly, then it can actually be a very potent sleep aid by activating the GABA A1 receptor. So it's very fascinating that I think all the steroids have already been investigated, and the ones that are were not useful, they've been abandoned and then made a resurgent, like Testosterone, DHB, right? And then the rest were like YK11 and all these bullshit SARMs.
They were like left on the floor in the factory and someone picked them up. The SARMs most SARMs are pretty much junk.
Yeah, in my opinion also. And they might have some efficacious applications in the milligram dosages for particular medical settings, but I don't think any of them have been approved for medical use. There's still undergoing clinical trial. It's all abandoned, right?
Yeah, like YK11's only been used in rats. There's no human data on it.
Yeah, and then supposedly it blocks myostatin and you can get freaky gains, but none of the bodybuilders are using it.
No, and I don't know if the myostatin thing is even the right pathway to go down at this point, right? We're not even really sure if that's in utero, but not as an adult.
Right. So what would you say, like, if you wanted to interpret the scientific evidence, of course, human data would be the most suitable. And then maybe after that, animal studies. And then we have, of course, some niche in vitro, in vivo stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel that like really tangible evidence that we can use is very limited, honestly.
Yeah. And I think they're going to start using the genome more and more to just look at the genes, right? Instead of animals. I think the rat studies are probably going to go away eventually because they're really pretty irrelevant to what goes on in the world, right?
I hope so, because this is the problem in the fitness industry. Everybody starts regurgitating animal models. Like I did a 2-hour video on Boldenone regarding its kidney toxicity. And I really digged into it, right? Because everybody was scared that Boldenone can cause all kinds of kidney issues. And then you see that most of these studies have just been poorly performed. And there was only 1 or 2 studies in human models
to show
where they didn't factor in so many cofactors related to kidney health, most notably blood pressure. They totally overlooked that, or the carrier oil, right?
Yeah.
So all these little things, it's very hard to piece it together. And I know that a lot of people are very firm about their data, but a lot of the data is just,
it's flawed. It's very flawed.
You can't do much with it, you know?
No. And I don't know if you knew, but going back to Boldenone. So Boldenone is an intermediate in animals, in cattle and sheep, between testosterone and estrogen, similar to the way Nandrolone is in humans.
Oh, really?
So there was a study done recently. So Boldenone is being explored as a food additive to cattle, similar to Trenbolone, right? They were looking at other things they could use, and there were 2 groups. There was one that got the Boldenone and one that didn't, and the one that when they tested them both at the end for Boldenone, they both groups Boldenone was detected in, and they wait a second, what is this? And they were like, wow. So again, we don't know where all these things come from.
I think I read that in some Chinese studies as well, where they were just looking at the health of, or looking for metabolites in just general population, and they were full with Boldenone metabolites. Like, how
in humans?
Possible? Yeah,
I wonder if it's from what they were eating.
Yeah, isn't that weird? That even does a trace amount from the meat that you're eating that you can get contamination through blood work analysis.
Yeah, that's odd. Yeah, I mean, I know Nandrolone. A lot of people don't realize that Nandrolone technically is a bioidentical hormone, just in such a minuscule amount. But it shows up in pregnant women and stuff in blood work.
I tried to look for a reference range on Nandrolone, but I wasn't able to find it. Unfortunately,
it's like 1/50th of testosterone. It's
really
very, very small. I can send you stuff on that if you want. It's very obscure though.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I would like to, because I have the reference ranges of all hormones, and of course Nandrolone is a bioidentical hormone, albeit in trace amounts. But I just wanted to see what the difference is, because like when you do help people with the drug test, for example, there's a cutoff.
Yep.
Right? There's a cutoff for these metabolites. So of course, when you take exogenous Nandrolone, it's produced differently. So you might have to bypass the carbon radioisotope.
Yeah, so it's always the carbon thing that gets you, right? People they miss that, like the exogenous hormones have different carbon 13 versus carbon 12 versus what's produced.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So
that's how they snag. That's how they snag all the athletes, because you can't really lie about that one.
Unfortunately,
no, and there's really no way around that one if they're going to actually go that far into testing.
Yeah. Oh, you can produce more endogenously, but you have to do some of the secretagogues and then kind of bypass it that way.
You could.
And those have a pretty short detection time also, and you can speed up the clearance even faster. Yeah. Good times.
If you go back to something that could be interesting with Primo versus Masteron as well, is it might be an interesting way to test to see if Primobolan is real, right? So if in theory Primobolan should reduce your serum estradiol, right, as you've probably seen in your own blood work, right? You don't need an AI to run Primo. If you run it like 1-to-1 with test, it should reduce your estradiol, versus Masteron doesn't really reduce it in serum, but yet you won't get estrogenic sides.
Yeah, so the weird thing is that Masteron also reduces it in my serum.
Did you saw that? Okay.
Yeah, and I have legit Masteron. I mean, the connections that I have are good. So that's been tested through Yanoshik. Yeah.
And it was just testosterone and Masteron used?
Yeah, just testosterone and Masteron. Yeah.
How much was it reduced by?
I mean, we just kept it in range. So total of the reference range, you run like 750 tests, 1,000 tests, and then the same amount of Masteron on top, and you're in the reference range, like 50.
Wow.
Well, not the reference range, but your normal levels. And I've seen this over and over again on blood work of athletes. But then again, of course, there's so many cofactors of aromatase inhibition. I mean, the list of potential aromatase inhibitors is like 50 different compounds. Yeah. So people don't realize, zinc.
Dietary factors.
Dietary fats. I mean, there's so many. So when you eat reasonably healthy, so I can interchange Masteron for Primo, right? Both high quality, pure, accurately dosed. And my estrogen will be exactly the same. But if I take it out, within 6 weeks, my estrogen will be gyno territory.
Okay.
And then weirdly enough, with Boldenone, I don't get so much reduction. I do get a reduction, but not so much.
Was your estrone go up?
I think the last time I tested Boldenone took Boldenone was like 7 years ago. So I don't think I have blood work on.
Interesting.
Yeah. After doing some research on Tren and Boldenone, you realize that these compounds are just not really, after Primo, you don't need much of a anabolic incentive
I
besides the
agree with that.
testosterone.
Yeah, I don't react well to Boldenone. It crushes my estrogen.
Yeah. And did your estrone go up in the context
It
of
did.
taking Boldenone?
It did, yeah, versus where it should be, but not. It wasn't like sky high, but it crushed my E2.
Yeah. So in humans, basically, if you take exogenous Boldenone, it converts into estrone, and then in some individuals, it can convert into estradiol. But in cattle studies or animal models, you say that Boldenone is an intermediate and will raise estradiol.
Yeah. So normally the production would go to a diol metabolite, right? But
right. Mm-hmm.
It seems to go to a dione. So it's almost going backwards. And that's how it would become estrone. It's going to dione, androstenedione dione first, and then to estrone.
Now I want to see blood work of all those race horses and race camels.
Yeah, I know.
They're
right?
pretty heavy on the Boldenone. I've helped some people in Dubai and in Switzerland for protocols for horses, because I made videos about Boldenone, and then I got calls like, hey, you want to do a consultation about Boldenone? And it's actually quite interesting what they do, but they combined it with anti-inflammatory drugs, prednisone, and just to make the horses race faster and the camels race faster. And I really wonder what their blood work would look like, but they typically don't do blood work for these.
Or they're not going to share it. Yeah. What kind of doses would be used in a horse?
Not much, like 150 milligrams every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just respond more robustly than we do. Right. That's
and it seems that they don't get HPTA downregulation either. But of course, they'll load them up with all these weird other compounds,
who knows?
Like injectable GW1516 has been available for the cattle for years. And then suddenly humans, it became popular for humans, probably due to Tony Huge. She's like, the oral bioavailability is low, let's put it in solution. But it has been available for cattle or for horses and camels for a very long time already. If you go to the horse and camel supply shops, you can find all kinds of weird injectables
that they
use in races. Yeah.
Very cool.
I would like a horse like that. Run through the street.
Cool. What else you want to talk about?
So with this Masteron, right? So it acts as a selective estrogen receptor modulator. And even though it might block the estrogen beta receptor, does that also mean that it could potentially, like we know that it's anti-prolific in breast cancer, right? But does that also mean that it could potentially be anti-prolific in skeletal muscle? Because again, through the bro lore, a lot of people start getting flatter. This could be the renin angiotensin aldosterone system modulation.
Yeah, through estrogen.
I also noticed with a lot of guys that once they megadose the Masteron, let's say over 500, 700, 1,000 milligrams a week, that it seems to inhibit further muscle growth. And in other individuals, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a ton of different things, right? Masteron causes some loss of, minerals and electrolytes and things as well. That could, any of these things, loss of any fluid inside the muscle is going to cause it to not be anabolic. Right. I mean, that's the thing is we don't, and I know you're aware of this, they never really looked at Masteron in men or in athletes, or it was only really used for women with cancer. So a lot of the data is missing.
No,
even if
for
you
sure.
search, that's the problem is they literally left this stuff on the table in the 70s and never went back.
If you type in Masteron on PubMed, you get 20 studies, 25?
Yeah, at most, and most are blocked.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can always find them on Science Hub, and if you know some people who
go through the
peer review process. Like a friend of mine, he was still going for his PhD in nutrition, so he had access to all the peer review studies that were being published. And he also told me that hundreds of studies get retracted every year.
All the time, yeah. When
they
a lot
get
of things
published,
don't
and then 6 months later, like, wait a minute, this is shit. And they retracted. Totally. But usually people already make their conclusions based on studies that are being retracted afterwards.
Yeah. Well, because how many people really stay on top of that stuff, right? You see it written down and you just assume it's true and you move on from it. And a lot of things don't, a lot of things don't get published either, right? Depends on who owns the rights to it. I've done stuff with pharmaceutical companies that we work with some of these chemicals and they will never be published. They're proprietary. The rights are owned by these companies. Right? They're not going to publish these, the same with trying to find stuff on, Parabolan, from Negma. That stuff's not around.
No.
They didn't.
And it discontinued it. I think the data is already lost to the shredder, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't know where to find it. I mean, you have to go to friends and basically knock on the door and say, hey guys, can I go through your archives? And then even then, if you can get it, I mean, how old is this data? How relevant?
Yeah, it's not relevant. And if you saw some of the studies, what they considered ethical back then would not be considered. Like they were using it on women and pregnant women and all sorts of stuff that you would never consider nowadays.
No,
right?
you would never do it.
They're doing it with Nandrolone as well.
Yeah, Nandrolone as well. Yeah, it's some legit. What was his name? The old steroid guru, like one of the first ones.
Who, Duquesne?
Yeah, it's like that kind of level of insanity when it comes to women, because he would do all kinds of weird practices on women as well back in the day, and they would just let him. But it's when you think about it,
it would not happen today. No,
it would not happen. So what I find is funny that, of course, we're all online trying to still piece it together, but it seems that it's I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that we're going to come to this grand solution and grand understanding of anabolic androgenic steroids simply because there's no interest from the medical community to really do the studies that we would like to have in the fitness community. Like, I would like to see how Primobolan affects the brain, for example. Right? I get great results.
They most likely won't ever they won't look at it.
No. Right.
Or if it's been studied and they retract the data, like you said. It'll say data not available.
Right. So the weird thing is, like with Boldenone, you can find a lot of kidney toxicity issues. But when you start looking for the same data on Primobolan or other anabolic androgenic steroids, it's not there.
Nope.
So you would think, oh, wait a minute, that means Primobolan is safe. Let's just make a dose Primobolan instead of Boldenone. But it's
we don't know.
The absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
No, and no one knows for sure. And that's the thing is, we don't, like you said, there's not a ton of research. So like I'll have to spend time all over the place because no one company's doing anything with any of these drugs, right?
No. Bayer still has Primobolan FDA approved, but I don't think they're doing any additional research. They just have limited research for how Primobolan is used. I remember I translated the insert from Turkish to English.
Yep.
I had two guys that helped me with that. And then you see the medical application is actually quite limited. But it's the same with the medical insert for Parabolan, which was in French, also had it translated. And the dosing protocol is exactly the same. It's 75 milligrams every 15 days for 3 months, or for 3 injections, and then once a month for another 3 injections. Done.
Yeah, you took that for Parabolan, right? It was front loaded.
Yeah.
And then but it equated basically to 50 milligrams every 10 days, right? If you remove the
every 15 days, 50 milligrams net Trenbolone. Yeah.
Yep, which is interesting because the bodybuilding community, at least in the United States, outside of more hardcore circles, perhaps, everyone's doing 35 milligrams of Trenbolone now, right? Which every week, which equates the same as the Parabolan dosing, right? 35 milligrams every 7 is about 50 every 10.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Which now we've aligned back with what Negman was doing with the original stuff.
Finally.
So they were pretty much onto something back then instead of the days of doing 100 milligrams a day.
Yeah, I mean, I recently made a video about how to, what all the medical dosages were, right? I figured it out for all the things that at one point in time were FDA approved, and including for animals, for Boldenone, for example. And then you can actually make pretty hefty steroid cycles with the medical dosages, especially with Anadrol. That's like 500 milligrams per day if you're 100 kilos.
Exactly. Yeah, by weight. Yeah.
Yeah, by weight. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like, some of them are dosed very, very low, and some of them are dosed incredibly
very high. Right? Like Winstrol's dosed very low, right? Because they'll use for angioedema. But other ones, Nandrolone, the medical dosing is not far off from what you and I would use.
No, that's about 200 milligrams a week.
Puts me at 400. For a 200-pound man, it puts you about 400 milligrams.
Right. Yeah.
Which is pretty much what most guys would use.
Right. Yeah, I would prefer a little bit lower because the water retention and the cosmetic.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, but that's how they dosed it.
Yeah, so it's funny to see that back in the day on the steroid forums, that people would ramp up the dose of Trenbolone to 1,000 milligrams, and saying that that's the only way to do it. Were you on the GH15 forum back in the day?
I wasn't. No,
thank God.
Wish I were. No, but I hear stories about that.
Oh, it was crazy.
Probably from
I was there the first year, and then afterward turned into a clusterfuck. But I mean, a lot of, like Ty Clark, for example, he was also there. And he was probably the only one besides me and a couple other people talking about blood work. Everybody else was, So you had like sub forums, right? You had like the first forum where everybody talked about drugs and trying to one up each other. Like, I take 700 Tren. Oh, I take 1,000. Oh, I take 1,400 milligrams. I take 2,100 per week. crazy shit like that. And then I think Ty and Clark start to make a thread somewhere about how to interpret blood work, about albumin and globulin, and then they start interacting. And so there was only a very niche amount of people actually interested in the scientific evidence or how it would actually affect your blood work.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people got kidney problems.
I'm sure they did. If you take a gram.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I did it for 4 weeks.
I did as well. My legs blew up. They swelled up.
Oh, right. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. The inflammatory prostaglandins. Oh, man.
Oof, yeah, not good.
I couldn't breathe.
Oh,
I
yeah?
couldn't breathe. No, I couldn't breathe. I mean, it's just everything is so swollen.
So
Even the internal organs.
Wow.
Yeah, you just feel constricted. Then you just walk around with your Ventolin inhaler, just, puffing up a storm. Keeping up the, and then you're, why am I getting so lean? Oh, it's all the body recomposition effect. I saw one of the bro lores on that you discussed with Paul Burnett about Trenbolone during the off season, that it's probably not a good idea. Well, what is that about?
Well, I mean, it can be used, I think, in a small dose if someone really is stuck at like a sticking point, but I just don't think it's a safe, right? I mean, there's a time and place to use it. I would use it pre-contest for maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, depending. I just think the younger guys now on TikTok all want to use it all year round, right? It's an excuse to not eat well, right? Because you can.
It is. I mean, you do everything wrong and you still get results. That's why Trenbolone is so popular. And you have the 30-day Tren challenge now, where kids just take Tren and they recomp and they look better. They look better than before. It's so weird, dude. It's so weird that people have gone this far. But then again, I did my fair share of stupid experiments.
No, we all did.
In the day we also. All did. Yeah. So what is the craziest thing that you've done when you look back now and you're like, oh man.
With steroids?
I think. Yeah, with steroids.
I mean, I feel like any of those things, Anadrol, 100 milligrams a day. Why would you do that to yourself? I mean, falling asleep, sitting up, you feel so toxic, so horrible. I mean, my wife would be like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Or Ment. I don't know if you've ever used Ment.
Yeah, I've never used it, but
I used it 3 times. It's like Dianabol. Your weight shoots up really fast.
Yeah.
But it's just fluid. It's the same as Dbol. Like you lose all the weight. I didn't keep any of it after.
Oh, really? How much did you run?
I'm short. What's that?
How much Ment did you run?
I don't remember the doses. I want to say a half a cc a day, daily.
Okay, so that's what, 25 milligrams? I think the dose
something like that, yeah.
But it was acetate, it's like 50 milligrams per mil.
Something like that, yeah. And I'm short. I'm 5'7". I'm 215-ish now, but I think I was 200 at the time, and I went from 200 to 236 in 6 weeks.
Right. Okay. And
I was like a water buffalo.
Yeah.
I was wheezing and snoring.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Not a great look. No, but like dumb stuff like that. Like I just don't think that any of the big pros are using those exotic things, right? I think everyone uses.
I have talked to some guys who were doing like a gram of Mint.
Whoa.
And getting to the Olympia stage. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. See, I would just
couldn't speak a word of English, but
I mean, my understanding now is most of the guys are doing, a gram, 1,500 test and an anabolic, and then growth and some insulin.
It's actually pretty basic, from all the guys that I've had consultations with, just to run some ideas past me from, and then ask, what was your protocol? And most of the time it's pretty basic. I mean, me, Derek, and Leah, we analyzed one of the IFBB pros of blood work, and we got their cycle. And the only thing that was weird was like 50 milligrams of Anadrol per day. For 16 weeks, but the total cycle dose was like 2,500 milligrams.
No, not that big, for someone that size.
No, that's big IFBB pro level, and I've seen the cycles. I think these guys just respond better, maybe their GAC repeaters of the androgen receptor are just super favorable, right, in that medium range, where they get a very high androgen receptor binding, and then of course they live like hermits. These guys, they don't miss meals and injections and workouts.
Like Dorian Yates talked about, right? He was like, he basically lived like a monk. He didn't leave his house for 8 years.
No, I know. And do you see these guys travel? No.
And like you said, and then the genetic factor is the biggest thing too, right? People don't want to grasp that, right? You talk about basketball or football, people seem to get that there's a genetic component there, but you talk about bodybuilding, people are like, oh no, I'm just not using the right amount of drugs. I'm not eating enough food. Unfortunately, it's a genetic thing.
It makes it so frustrating, I guess, for the people who want to exceed and get a little bit more size. They want to grow, and then you have a big guy saying that he doesn't use so much. Of course, a big guy usually has a lot more experience.
Yep.
And already went through the motions of taking 700 Tren or a gram of mint or whatever, and realized that it wasn't worth it. So they're like, okay, take the 750 test and maybe some Boldenone in the conning phase and Nandrolone in the off-season phase, and that's it. And people are like, no, you fucking liar.
No, we're not. But it's an outside of genetic response. If asking one of those guys what they do now is not necessarily what they did to get there. I think that's kind of what we're going to.
True.
Like, it would be the same as you or I in the gym. If someone, a new person comes up to you and they said, "Hey, Steve, what's your split? How do you work out?" It's irrelevant to a new person what you do now. Is that how you got that big? Probably not.
No,
right? And
I mean, when I was
years.
I think when I was my biggest at 260 pounds, I was on test, GH insulin, some IGF-1. And when I say test, it's like 2.5 grams a test. Yeah. And when I say GH, it's like 8 units of GH. And insulin's like 35 IUs of Lantus, and then, some Humalog on top. And of course, now I'm way lighter. I'm like 95 kilos, so it's barely 200 pounds. But I came off everything. And people still say that I look like a bodybuilder, but it's just 25 years in the gym.
Yeah.
So
that's the same with, like, Chris Bumstead. I think one of my clients today was asking me about Chris Bumstead's diet. I guess he said he eats 2,400 calories a day.
Yeah.
Was like, there's no way. Well, that's what he eats now. He doesn't need to get any bigger. That's not what he ate to get there.
No, and he has to get peeled. I mean, when you work with honey, you suffer. It's that simple. He'll suffer the fat off. He won't let you use so much drugs. Honey's pretty conservative from what I understand. Yeah. So it just makes you suffer that stuff off. So you used to work for some pharmaceutical companies, right?
No, So through school, they expect us to do, we're supposed to be working in labs. The problem is with my specific major, there are no labs. I live in a state where there are actually tons of pharmaceutical companies, but there's no one lab that's really doing anything with anabolic steroids specifically. So there's bits and projects. So it'll be like a project here and then a project there, that kind of stuff. Whereas most of my peers are focusing on diabetes and obesity and those sorts of things. And they'll just work, they'll spend. So the program is a 7-year program, typically. It's regular medical school first, which is abridged. I don't need to do the residency and all that stuff. And then you're supposed to be doing research. It takes 5 or so years of research. These people will be employed for 5 years at one lab working on a project.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's
so
a long time.
where there's no one lab here that's focusing on Primobolan for 5 years.
No. I mean, the market, there's no interest for that. I mean, diabetes and obesity and cancer and that kind of stuff. I mean, that affects millions of people, if not billions of people.
And it's growing.
At one point. Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah. But I mean, the steroid community that uses more than just medically prescribed TRT. I think the medically prescribed TRT crowd is maybe 2-3 million people, and then another 1 or 2 million of recreational drug users on top, maybe more. But that pales in comparison with the amount of people out there that have diabetes.
Oh, absolutely, especially in America.
I mean, did you see the stock of Novo Nordisk over the last 2 years? Semaglutide, baby. Yeah, I bought in early.
All those companies. There's a lot of money to be made there. And at least in the US, they're really cracking down. I don't know if you saw, they outlawed.
I saw it, yeah.
All that stuff.
I saw it. Rick Collins sent me that link of the FDA, and I'm like, oh my God, motherfuckers. And that's just because semaglutide is being copied, right? With the vitamin B12 or whatever, to bypass the patent. And so they're like, we don't want to be known for being the lobbyists that like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk is whispering in their ears, like, you got to ban this stuff because we're losing out on money. So, okay, we'll ban all of it. I mean, it's the Biden administration. They already banned HCG.
Well, you should
ban everything else.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting that you knew that. So that's what's happening now medically here is the TRT clinics can't get HCG, right? If they can even find it, it's very expensive. It's gone up tenfold in price. And so now it's
$100 per vial.
Yeah. Well, it's forced doctors now to buy it off the black market. So now they're using the stuff that's made in Thailand, and but so
they don't produce it here. No, they produce it in Turkey. Otherwise, I would have had access.
I just know, it's not produced here domestically.
I wish it was available here. I have to import my Merck Ovitrol from Turkey also.
But that's all it's doing. It's just forcing the black market to get bigger.
Yeah, so people are always worried, like, oh, they're going to remove the peptides and they're going to remove the HCG, but it just means you have to get a little bit more resourceful and
Yep.
spend a little bit extra money. And if they confiscate your package, all the more reason to stop paying taxes there and just go live somewhere else.
Exactly.
That's easier said than done. I mean, I was able to escape from that bullshit. I was like, okay, fuck this. I'm just going to go somewhere else. But it's, of course, if you're settled with kids in a house, and then it's easier said than done. But it's, that's basically the ultimate fuck you.
Yeah. And they'll probably come after testosterone next.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I mean, of course, what is it? What is this asshole's name? That doctor that's trying to block a nicotinamide mononucleotide, which is endogenously produced for NAD+. Anti-aging guy. I'm sure they're going well in the comment section. What is his name? Sinclair, David Sinclair.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he just published his own nicotinamide mononucleotide study. Nobody could find it. But then Physionic is another YouTube channel. He really goes into the scientific evidence. Physionic is a good guy.
Okay.
Very, very smart guy. Very good researcher. He was able to find the nicotinamide mononucleotide study from David Sinclair. And he's like, this is a bunch of horseshit. Why are you trying to, make sure that it's become a drug? But he's probably just getting lobbied by some big pharma companies.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's crazy what goes on. I know. They don't want, the last thing they want you to be healthy.
Yeah. No, they want you to be sick. Yeah. They want you to have diabetes. That seems how it's set up now. I mean, the food pyramid is basically there to give you diabetes and make you obese. And then the medical system is there, not preventative, but reactive.
No, and they in medical school in the third year, when you specialize, when you pick you're exposed to all of the general areas of medicine, and you have to take classes on each one. The one that's left out is endocrinology.
Oh,
which is interesting. So at least in the U.S., so if you go to a doctor in the United States, unless they are an endocrinologist, most of them have never been taught any of that. So it makes sense that they don't understand these things. So you can't ask a regular doctor about testosterone. They just think it's an evil thing. They don't understand it at all. They never took a class in it.
No, and endocrinology means hormones produced from one gland to the other, right? It's a secretagogue. So basically from the pituitary or the pancreas to other organs. So most endocrinology is insulin and diabetes.
Yep.
That's like 95% of it. And the other 5%, there may be other particular products. I mean, the TRT space is tiny.
Yep.
For now. And it's weird because in America and the rest of the world, TRT is getting more and more and more and more popular. I mean, the amount of people that I see on TRT now, either self-prescribed or through a clinic like Merrick Health or some of the other ones. I mean, it's astounding how many guys are pulling the plug on this, And I think overall it's a benefit, but for how long, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. How long can you get away with it? I don't know. Right. And most of the TRT clinics, at least in the US, they're not doctors that are necessarily certified in doing that. They have a certification, like a wellness thing, or their GP that's writing for it, and they'll get that stuff yanked. Right?
Yeah. No, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel called Man Medicine?
No.
Okay. So that's another small YouTube channel where it's just I think he's an endocrinologist and he has a hormone clinic. He's certified in 3 states, and he makes very good, interesting videos about topics related to TRT and then optimizing male health. But he's just one of those, solo warriors that is also pushing against the grain a little bit with his content. But I think honestly, if you want to do something along this field, you're just going to have to do it yourself at one point.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or at least be educated about it yourself.
All right. Do you come across anything new and groundbreaking in your field when you're doing research for school and then thinking like, watch out on this because in 5 years or 10 years, it's going to be the next big thing, like the Primobolan metabolite that could be an aromatase inhibitor, or
that stuff seems to be the most fascinating. There's not a lot of most of the new molecules. We make things all the time, but they just get shelved. It's similar to what was going on in the 50s and 60s. Right. We have computers that spit out molecules all the time, and they don't go, either they're too toxic to ever use, or there's no use for them right now. And then getting something then approved for a study is another thing.
But this is all through simulation, right? So they simulate the molecule, and then they simulate potential receptor binding and metabolism and that kind of stuff, and then they figure out like, oh, this is worth it or not worth it.
Yeah. So we like you can scan, for instance, I could scan Anavar and Trenbolone together, and then it'll give me anything that's related to the two of them combined.
Oh.
And then a human has to actually look at the molecule to tell if it's toxic or not. The computer can't really tell, based on the structure, if it's going to be toxic or not. So then a human still needs to be there to do the initial
the analysis.
Check on it. Yep. And then
so it doesn't go through particular, cytochromes to see where the metabolism ends up and where it potentially inhibits a receptor or binds to a receptor.
But some of the things the robot, it's like AI. It's only good for so many things. It's not.
How long is it going to take, though?
I don't know. We will see. I have no idea.
Like, I feel right now like we're all trying to piece it together, right, with the limited information that we have, and we're like right on. I feel that we're always on close to a breakthrough, but it's just not coming.
No,
because we have so many educators in the space, right, trying to with their own personal experience and interpreting the scientific evidence, and then guys like you are actually part of that process where new things get investigated, and whether they pass or not, that remains to be seen.
Who knows? Yeah.
I always feel like we're close to a breakthrough that simply isn't coming, which makes me a little bit frustrated.
I know.
Because I would like to know the most optimal and healthiest approach to use these compounds, but it seems that there's always a caveat somewhere. Like even Primobolan, it's not well studied.
Nope. Not like that. And that's that new study that we talked about previously, that who knows if that'll actually go anywhere, right? So they stumbled onto these two major things. It could literally just get shelved for another 20 years or never get looked at again, or it could become another drug. It depends who sees money in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with us, you can't really make money.
The bodybuilders, they don't care about us.
Bodybuilders. No, the bodybuilders are mostly too broke to spend money. I mean, I talk about a lot of new novel compounds, right? And sometimes the researchers of these compounds actually reach out, like 5-amino-1-MQ, which is a nicotine N-methyl transferase inhibitor, nicotinamide N-methyl transferase inhibitor. So it has to do with the recycling of NAD+.
Yep.
So you can inhibit this, and then NAD+ levels are sustained mostly in adipose tissue. And it's such a novel compound, and it looks so promising. And then one of the researchers reached out. It's like, these are the best videos ever. Why doesn't it get any views? I said, well, it's too new. Maybe 10 years from now, there was like, oh, Steve and the researchers were onto something, but it's just so new that people have no idea what it is and even understand, the mechanism behind it. Like, I'm surprised that semaglutide and liraglutide got such a high adoption, because me and Colette Nelson were one of the few first ones to talk about it. Like, and Colette Nelson was really, because she's very into diabetes stuff, right? She has diabetes herself. And she was like, keep your eye on this, because this is going to be a big thing. And she was right. I mean, now everybody's using it. And then tirzepatide came out, and now retatrutide, which is actually available now. And I think that's going to put all the appetite suppressants to shame.
Yeah. And that area is growing. But the anabolic world is not really growing very large. It's more
because they prescribe it for people with diabetes and obesity.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
after all your research, I mean, you've been part of this game for such a long time. What would you say would be, like, with all the information we have currently, what would still be approved substances and compounds to use where you don't really have to worry about safety?
Well, what's the dose? I mean, the dose is the poison, right?
Right.
I mean, I would say, honestly, testosterone and growth hormone, I would consider to both be very safe, right? If you're using them wisely.
Right.
And even growth hormone in larger amounts doesn't really present that many problems, right? Unless you're already diabetic or cancer. Yeah. But we use here for certain cancers, if it's not treatable and it's at the end stage, we see, I know people that are given it with lymphoma, things like that, if there's no hope. So at that point, they're not really worried about it growing anymore. And we use it for HIV.
Growth hormone prescribed just for overall quality of life at the end?
Yeah. We see it in AIDS all the time. So there's still, HIV. Not full-blown AIDS, but there's still HIV here. And that's, at least the state that I live in, that's really the primary use for it. You can't really write it anymore for anything else. Chronic kidney failure.
And idiopathic short stature, perhaps, for kids?
They do for children. Yeah, but it's rare. I mean, you can have it written, but those doctors it would take you a year to actually see one of those doctors. They're so backed up. Because I think they're very cautious in
Mm.
how they prescribe these things, right? Because parents will try to use it as a performance enhancing tool for their kids, right? Because there's no definition. What is technically, I'm short. Do I qualify for growth hormone? I mean, what I have when I had, bone plates that were still open.
Right.
So, right, there's no actual definition.
Right.
So it's kind of a vague thing. You can't really write it, at least where I am, for health anymore.
No, and I think they're trying to really pull back on the compounding pharmacies regarding anti-aging practices, because I don't think that growth hormone is particularly anti-aging. If anything, it might age you faster by shortening telomeres through the cell proliferation, but it's a topical effect. So people feel and look better. Doesn't mean they necessarily age backwards, right? Even though Brian Johnson is using a little bit of growth hormone, that super anti-aging vampire guru guy.
Yeah.
It's very interesting things that he's trying to do. Like this is what I would do if you have unlimited money. It's just hire a couple. Are you familiar with Brian Johnson, the blueprint guy?
Yeah.
So he's just doing like all kinds of weird anti-aging stuff, trying to reverse the biological clock. And a lot of that is just topical. Like he uses laser therapy on his face to make him look better. But he's also supplementing a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of growth hormone, but quite micro dosages. It's quite fascinating to see.
Well, that's a lot. There's a lot of businessmen that do that here in the U.S. too, just to stay mentally sharper. That more than testosterone and the growth hormone.
50% of my business is the guys just want to exceed a little bit, and you help them, design like a hormone replacement therapy protocol, test neurosteroids, GH, and then some goodies on top for libido, and then everybody's happy-go-lucky. They can perform like a 30-year-old again.
Exactly. You back though, right? You use DHEA and Pregnenolone?
Yeah. Not right now because I'm off everything. Well, I added in a little bit of DHEA because my neurosteroid levels were just declining.
Okay.
So DHEA, HCG, and Increlex. Yeah, I was able to find
it. Increlex.
Yeah.
That's not an easy one.
No, my wallet is crying.
I was going to say. That's a rare find. The only thing you see around is LR3.
Yeah. So LR3 I ran in the past, but the Increlex is something entirely different. I mean, if you inject it locally, of course, it's going to leak into skeletal or into peripheral tissue, right? And then start binding to the binding proteins. But if you inject it pre-workout, I mean, the nutrient partitioning and absorption is insane.
Is it? Do you notice a big difference between that and LR3?
Yeah. And I've tried various brands of LR3. But I ran a little bit of LR3 before, and then I added in the Increlex to see what the difference was. And it's like you're on steroids.
Yeah.
I have muscle memory.
Yeah, but still, I mean, there's got to be a reason why guys want Increlex versus LR3. I've never been impressed with LR3.
No. I mean, and the weird thing is, like, if you run like 500 micrograms in IGF-1 LR3, it's more expensive than running 500 micrograms Increlex, even when you pay an arm and a leg for it.
Really?
The problem is the bottles are like $700. Let's say $700 street value, right? 40 milligrams. But 40 milligrams lasts you 80 days.
Oh, is it that?
You have 500 micrograms. So when you do the calculation, you spend like $8.50 per day, which is 2 IUs of growth hormone. But if you just shovel that money from 2 IUs growth hormone, instead of 6, you take 4, and then you add in 500 micrograms Increlex, assuming you don't have cancer, obviously. I check my cancer markers regularly. just to play it safe, right? And I've done my ultrasounds over the years. So, I mean, I feel that the results are stellar.
Yeah, and I guess it's really just a big cost up front, but technically, like you said, when you spread it out over the
long run,
yeah.
I bought I bought like 4, and then I sold one to a buddy of mine, Aaron, and now I got 5 more coming. So I ran through one almost, which I also gave him 10 milligrams to try. So I used maybe 25 milligrams over the last 6 weeks, and I mean, I feel I look like a bodybuilder, albeit that I haven't been on steroids for 10 months.
Wow. Why did you come off?
To get my wife pregnant.
Oh, there you go. I already have kids.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm a little bit late to the party, but we wanted to be in like a certain financial position.
No, I get that. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So like Paul had kids a little bit earlier, right? And his are like teens, almost.
Yeah,
16.
mine are. I have an 8-year-old and a 13-year-old, so I'm kind of in the middle of that too.
Yeah. So you wanted to be just self-reliant and just make sure that everything was in place. And then, like 2 years ago, we're like, you know what, it's time. But then, situations in the world. So we waited a little bit. And then last year I decided, it'd come off. And the funny thing is my fertility parameters came back beautifully after
I'm sure they
12
did.
years of steroids. Yeah, steroid use. Yeah. So
That's a
DNA
reflection of your general
fragmentation.
health.
Right.
Right. Like
Exactly.
mine, if I go to TRT, I'm fine on TRT.
Right. Yeah.
They recover
Your
well.
fertility parameters are also still good,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that Proviron and Halotestin were used as fertility aids in the 70s?
I know Proviron was. Halotestin was? I know it doesn't shut down the HPTA.
Hundreds of studies.
On Halotestin. See, that's one drug that we don't really, it's still FDA approved in the US, it's just not used.
Yeah. So it's so weird. So I was going through like all the steroids regarding fertility, and then Nandrolone, Proviron, and Nandrolone shuts you down. So let's not go there. It's not good for fertility.
No.
Proviron can actually improve fertility levels, and halotestin can improve fertility levels if you're subfertile. So that's below the World Health Organization.
That's interesting. Ranges. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then I documented that in the steroids versus fertility videos, which got no views because it's so niche. Nobody gives a shit. Yeah, you'll watch, of course.
Very cool.
So it's like 50 minutes long, going through all the scientific evidence. I cataloged it with the references and stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. I would definitely get an A+ if I presented that in school. So you go through Proviron and fertility and testicular function and spermatogenesis. And you're like, wait a minute, there's like 50 studies on this shit.
Oh yeah, no, Proviron was heavily studied for it for a long time.
Yeah,
right. The 70s was even really big.
And the funny thing is, when you look at the medical insert of Proviron up to, I think, 1983, it was in there, and then they removed it.
Yeah, it's not in the current one. I have the current one. Yeah, it's not in there. That's interesting.
This is why I like scientific evidence, because it's always evolving, right? And you can cherry pick scientific evidence so easily. You can just go back in time to some flawed study, and you're like, this is the truth. And then 20 years later, they're like, what the fuck did we do? This is not true at all. And they have to change their minds,
What was the dose on the Halotestin?
Up to
5 milligrams. Up to 30?
Up 30 for 1.5 years.
Wow. That's a big dose for that time.
I read all the studies.
Angry to have sex.
No, you would have angry sex. That's the best.
Yeah, I was going to say very angry sex at 30 milligrams. That would be.
So I think some dosages were like 2.5 for like 3 to 6 months, some 5 milligrams, but there were even some protocols of 30 milligrams for men who were azoospermic, 0.
Holy smokes.
And then they get into like 22, 25. And then the outcome at the end of the study is like 6 of the 9 participants conceived within the window duration of the study, which was then 6 months to 1 year. And you're like, okay, that's good. Yeah, but all these studies are like sub 1980s.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They stopped. It was like very early 80s is when they cut things off, right? And then they didn't really come back until Bazin brought testosterone back in the 90s.
Yeah. So, and I think the Anabolic Control Act just kept getting updated, and then more and more stuff was, and then now, of course, they added in the pro-hormones, and I think SARMs. Are SARMs added? No, right?
No, but they're
sort of.
Well, they're now outlawed now, but I don't know if they're going to be under that act or not. Right. Same with growth hormone. Growth hormone's not technically a controlled substance in the US, but it's illegal to possess without a prescription. It's very odd. And it's a jail sentence. It's a mandatory jail sentence to sell without a prescription, but yet it's not controlled.
Same's in Holland, right? You can't sell weed, but you can own it.
Yes, exactly. So and which funny in America, the growth hormone is just kept. It's just kept in the refrigerator in the pharmacy. It's not locked with all the other drugs. So like it's just there in the open. Any pharmacist can just take it. It's not, testosterone's put away in a safe place, and growth hormone's in the fridge. Just
really?
Boxes of Serostim just in the fridge.
That's funny. So imagine if the pharmacy gets raided, it would be like the first, because it's high value, I mean, those kits are mad expensive.
Exactly right.
It's so funny. I went to the United States like last year, and the first thing I went to was CVS and Walgreens to see what I could get. And you start out. No, you can't get it. The only thing I found was like the phenylephrine cream, like the hemorrhoid cream, which bodybuilders just use to kind of dry out their skin. I was like, okay, you can still find the preparation H. You could still find that, and Benadryl.
Yes, Benadryl,
and which I actually used on the way back because I had like a 24-hour flight. So I had 1 Benadryl and half a glass of wine. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's a good sleep aid. Yep.
Yeah, I was gone. And what else did I found? Oh, yeah, that Dex, the cough syrup, the
Yep,
blue stuff.
yep, that's still around.
Yeah. So
They're outlawing all that stuff though shortly.
oh, they will, huh?
The
Yeah.
pseudoephedrine and all this stuff is going to go away.
Yeah, is Bronchate still available? Because I
It
couldn't
is.
find that at CVS.
It is still, yes, but if it stays, I don't know. Again, it's it's odd because so you have to go, it's behind the counter and you have to show your driver's license. They scan your ID so they can keep track of your purchases. If you purchase, Paul and I joked about that the other day. We've both been flagged for it. Where you go to buy it and they're like, no, sir, I'm sorry.
Oh, your bodybuilder shit.
I have really bad asthma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
That's
I mean, they're
funny.
getting rid of all that stuff.
That's a shame, man. Shit. Yeah, and it's weird here in Thailand. You can get anything in the pharmacy besides ephedrine, because they use that to make methamphetamines, and that's like punishable by life sentence. No death penalties here anymore. But yeah, if you're caught with yaba, it's a crazy drug. If they caught that shit in your system, so any methamphetamine metabolite, you're fucked.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can go to the pharmacy here, test, sure. Growth hormone, sure. Tramadol, no problem. Diazepam, no problem. Ephedrine, no. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Now they get scared to death when you ask them for ephedrine. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's wild. Right, of all those things, like that's really going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, because they in Myanmar they have like meth labs where they make yaba.
Okay. Yeah, they have them here too somewhere.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. Like if you ever come here and you take a taxi and the taxi guy's whistling and air punching and brushing his hair the whole time, then you know he's had a rough night. Yeah. So you think? You think eventually they'll take everything away in the U.S.?
They're trying. I guess it depends what happens with the government here, right?
Well, with a little bit of luck, you'll get a different president who isn't so anti-steroid. But let's see. When is election time? Next year, right?
November.
Oh, November this year.
24. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, next year, yes. Next
year, okay. Yeah, I pray. I remember the last 4 years, I was like, how the hell did this happen? You know, this is the guy that took in the Anabolic Control Act and then, made HCG illegal. So, I mean, shouldn't stay if you care about this kind of stuff.
No, but he also doesn't care about crack, I guess, right?
No. Yeah.
Too close to home.
Yeah. That's weird.
Well, you're allowed to have, where I live, you're allowed to have insulin needles if it's for heroin, but you're not allowed to have insulin needles if it's for growth hormone.
Was it state where they legalized everything? Oregon?
Oregon, yeah.
And that's now turning into...
Yeah, well, you see what happens when they do that. Yes.
Yeah. That's so weird about like being an outsider. When you look at America, you have this grandiose idea of the American dream. And then sometimes you see these documentaries in places where like drug addiction and homelessness. And I show it to my wife. And of course, she grew up in a quote unquote third world country, right? Thailand is a third world country. And she looks at this and she's like, what's going on? Is this America? And then when we arrived in LA, we took a taxi, right? And you pass some of these homeless areas.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this in Thailand.
No, the cities are bad.
It's weird because it's supposed to be like the prime country, but these kinds of things still happen. In the countryside of Thailand, it also happens. Don't get me wrong. Like there's plenty of homelessness and drunkards and people with no jobs. And I think the worst amount of this I've seen was in Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar, the capital. Yeah, it's like a lot of these farmers. Yeah, a lot of farmers, they have cattle, of course. Right? They live in the countryside. There's about 3 million people there, 3 point something. And then once every couple of years, there's like a terrible winter and all the cattle just freeze to death. And so they come to the city for work, but there's not enough work for these people. So they turn into alcoholics. I think a bottle of Genghis Khan vodka is like $2 or $3. Yeah, it's very cheap vodka. And they all turn into alcoholics. So literally at the evening, it's like zombies. Or at least it was the case in 2010. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to travel. You see a little bit of the world.
Yeah.
See what's going on. Right. So what's your plan? Like, are you in contest prep or what
this
are you
is
doing?
My off season. So I was going to compete again next, probably August.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is to move up to next year. So the goal is to move up to open.
Okay, right.
So
yeah, you were doing
I'm a little too heavy for the classic. Yeah, I was classic. I did open years ago. I started in the 90s. I did bodybuilding when that's all there was, and I was never big enough. The classic cutoff is probably not attainable for me anymore. So we'll move there. So, that's why I hired Paul to make me eat.
All right. Oh, of course. Yeah. So you're on the high carb protocol.
Yeah, I'm on about 6,000 calories a day. It's gross.
Okay, fuck. Holy shit.
It's gross. Yeah, ask him. It's gross.
You got some insulin with that to help you with nutrient partitioning and stuff?
I don't need it.
Oh, you don't need it?
I don't need it. You'd be amazed.
Oh, wow. You're a big eater. You should come to Thailand. We could go to the buffet.
Yeah.
Like Colton was so impressed that I could eat a mountain of food. But I mean, I used to be a big guy too. And I can still eat at that pace.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, you just get like 7 rounds of plates, just the big ones, full.
Nice.
And then they have like the small plates for dessert, right? You like, I get the dinner plate. And then you get 2 rounds at the dessert.
Yep.
So you have to eat 6,000 calories, and now you're 215?
5'7", yeah. But my body fat's pretty low. I growth test and Primo at the moment.
Okay, wow.
I do not seem to gain any fat. So
that's nice. Yeah.
So I have 5 high days now, 2 medium days. My days I don't work out are just medium days, but I have a cheat meal on all 5 days.
I wish I could get you some Increlex. You'll put on like 30 pounds easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunately that all the guys that order it online now, that when it arrives, it's completely denatured. Because it's so fragile in the transport, it seems.
Yeah, I feel like that happens to some of the GH pens too. That arrive here. They're just junk. You get here.
Yeah.
The premix ones.
You open it up and it's like cloudy and like.
Yeah.
There goes my $250.
Yeah, and more depending where you're getting it from. More here.
Yeah. Is it a problem sourcing now with all the restrictions and?
No, I mean, I've never seen a problem, but the prices are all over the place. I mean, like Ceristim, like I use Ceristim. Ceristim goes from $300 for a box all the way I've seen as high as $700, which is dumb.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
$700 for a bottle of Increlex, okay, because it's going to last you almost 3 months.
Yeah, but not for a box of Ceristim.
No, that you blast through it in a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they get it. So you get it. If you have HIV here, it's free. It's under Medicaid, so they get it for free, and they generally don't want it. So they want the money. So
yeah, it's the same when I got my first Pfizer or a Genotropin from Pfizer in Germany. It was actually from H patients who didn't want it.
Yeah,
drive over to Germany and buy it from them.
Yeah, they hang outside the clinic.
Yeah,
you go to.
These were like in the party scene, so you meet people that way. And then Holland has one of the biggest exports, MDMA. So you put 2 and 2 together, and then you make a trade.
There you go.
Basically, those were the days, man. Yeah, the statute of limitations. I hope it applies to Europeans. Also.
It definitely does.
Yeah, it's
as long as you don't use ephedrine.
Yeah, I think that was it must have been like over 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's a long time since I met those people. Yeah, a long time. Hey, hold that thought. I got to go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll continue.
My dad was a surgeon for a long time, and in the 80s and 90s, one surgeon did the surgery, and you couldn't leave. It wasn't like today they swap out.
Oh, right.
So he would stand sometimes for 16 hours without peeing. It destroys your kidneys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
true.
So
he developed high blood pressure from damaging his kidneys, saving other people's lives. Pretty shitty, right?
He's doing dialysis?
No, they're not. No, it's managed now. But just saying, it's funny. Like these, they literally dedicate their lives to saving other people, and they're causing harm to themselves by doing so.
Man, it's so hard. It's 16-hour surgeries, and you can't just even leave. Yeah, of course. If you have a pee break, you need to wash everything again, right?
Yeah, and you got double gloves on, and you can't touch anything.
So there's no nurse there that goes under the table and just helps you relieve yourself.
No, I think there's probably lawsuits there. It's like Bill Clinton.
I forget. Like in Thailand, it would probably work, but in America,
exactly.
lawsuits. Here, a lot of stuff happens under the table.
Yeah, I'm sure. You're not, well, it happens here. It's just not supposed to happen here anymore.
Yeah. Ask Bill Clinton.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a funny meme of a picture of him sitting at his desk, and it says, "Younger people don't know that there's two people in this picture."
Oh my God! I remember when that scandal came out. You're like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's enjoying himself.
Yeah. How old are you now?
40.
Okay. I'll be 48.
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the old crew now, unfortunately. Yeah, I remember when life was a lot simpler back in the day, when we could just go to the steroid forums and read the Anabolics edition, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a test, Dbol kickstart.
Yep.
Yeah, makes sense.
Dbol. Yes. Test and Dbol together, right? Because that makes a lot of sense. Love my
but people still do it.
They do. I know lots of guys. I know guys that will run 8 weeks of it and then take 2 weeks off and run it again. Grown men.
Yeah.
They don't understand why they need to keep staying on it, because they lose all the sizes those 2 weeks that come off.
Yeah, right. And it's not real size either, you know?
No, it's junk.
Puff and fullness. Yeah.
Gross. That's
Sorry. Did you ever dive into the sexual binding globulin and the receptor complex?
Yeah, we did some stuff. Yeah. I mean, we did a really kooky video with Todd. I don't know if you watched that one.
I think I did, yeah, but it's been a while. Yeah.
That was kind of that we had a young guy on that proposed some odd theories about it. I don't fully agree with. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. I think most people focus on like the minute details, though, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if most guys would just eat right, train right, and use an appropriate amount of gear, they'd probably make great progress.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I just find it funny about the SHBG is that when you go through the scientific literature in the beginning, people say that it holds the androgens hostage. Then a couple of years later, wait a minute, there's an the SHBG actually delivers androgens to tissue.
And it has its own receptor.
Albumin. Yeah. And then later on, it's a receptor complex that actually attaches, but androgens can't bind to SHBG when it's attached to the sexual binding globulin. And then 5 years later, it can bind to the SHBG.
Exactly.
And increase cyclic adenosine monophosphate concentrations and act as a cofactor in androgen-mediated gene transcription. And then 10 years is nothing.
Nope. And if you bottom it out too, you just excrete all your hormones.
Yeah, and because it weakly binds to albumin. So that's why I always tell people just at least keep it sustained. But it's very difficult to do on cycle because androgen lowered it, growth hormone lowers it, IGF-1 to a certain extent, but insulin mostly lowers it. And the only thing that brings it up is thyroid medication and SERMs, but it's not very sustainable.
No.
Right. No. So most of my cycles usually involve around a little bit of T4 and sometimes T3.
Interesting. With GH makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of guys don't understand that, right? Because that conversion is what's going to allow the IGF to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't deplete T3. It's depleting the source at T4.
It's depleting the T4. The deiodinase enzyme activity goes up. And then, of course, if you don't supplement with T4, your T3 levels also deplete. And then the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Yeah, and then the GH is a waste too.
Yeah, and then the GH is wasted also because you need the nutrient partitioning alongside of it, you know. And of course, if your thyroid hormones are low, then really the free-form fatty acids are going to be problematic for your insulin sensitivity. Yeah. It's so funny, right? But because you want to go on cycle, but people don't realize that you can't just run test and GH. You have to run test, neurosteroids, maybe some thyroid meds, and then look into some of the other ancillaries to kind of keep everything together. So if you really want results, you're on like 7 to 8 compounds.
Yep. I started backfilling with the DHEA and the Pregnenolone because of you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Years ago when you started talking about it. Because it's in the medical community, it's not really understood. Like guys would be like,
why talk about it?
Do you really need it? Well, I don't know. I know it's the difference.
4 people talking about it. Me, Dave Lee, Ray Pete, and another guy. And Dave Lee did a great series on it on, what is that? The TRT optimization channel. Yep. It's like 1.5 hours of content, which it's very, very good. And but nobody talks about it. So I think I was one of the first to really bring it to the masses. Like, wait a minute, your HPTA shuts down, adrenal gland function kind of ceases, right? You'll still have a little bit of DHEA and Pregnenolone, but it's not enough.
No, and most doctors, at least here, don't understand what it does, so they don't bother with it.
Yeah, so it helps with the androgen receptor production besides testosterone, right? DHA and Pregnenolone help with androgen receptor production, which makes logical sense because testosterone, if it binds to the androgen receptors, it's actually two, right? They interlock.
Yep.
So now you lose two androgen receptors for every testosterone molecule. I mean, it would make logical sense that the genome would give you some androgen receptors back.
You would think, right?
Yeah, you would think, oh, they deplete and now I can't make any gains.
Yes.
And this is how androgen receptor expression just goes up. The more androgens you take, the more androgen receptors you get.
Yep.
And DHA and Pregnenolone, regulated that. And then DHA helps with glycogen synthesis and
all sorts of
insulin
things.
sensitivity. It's hilarious, So a lot of people have all these problems on cycle, and you just throw them in the DHA and Pregnenolone, and they come back an hour later. I thought this is for elderly. I said, no, just trust me.
No. Yeah.
Put it in, and then everything improves.
Well, your mood, I noticed mood-wise too, makes a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Yeah. And a cognition and productivity. Yeah. And of course, if you're doing a lot of research like you and me, then you need it. It's basically mandatory, And of course they try to block they banned it here now in Thailand. So I have to use like a ship. Yeah, you have to use a shipping forwarder to or at least iHerb and Amazon, they don't ship here directly. So
see, that's like one of the few things you can buy that's over the counter here. Amazon, you can go to the store and buy DHA. Now, the quality of the purity, I don't know, but you can get it anywhere.
Yeah, most of the Natural and some of these reputable brands, they're
fine.
So it's all fine, and you just take the lozenges or the oral version. Yeah. Personally, I don't really see that much difference in serum concentrations, whether that's sublingual or oral. No. Even though I think the intestinal tract has aromatase enzymes as well.
Yep.
And 17-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase, but I'm not sure if DHA goes through that. That's why some of the oral steroids are metabolized differently when you take
it. DHA should go through that. Yeah, exactly.
So that's So it's good to see that you also learned something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
That's good. That's funny. Yeah, I think it's one of those missing things that now a lot of people incorporate, and they're not everybody gets a good response from DHA and Pregnenolone, but most people do. And of course, it adds more bulk to your cycle, but ultimately the results are 10 times better.
Yeah, but I mean, do you count that as milligrams toward a cycle? I look at it more like it's a vitamin, right? I don't know. I don't count it toward androgen load.
It's kind of like vitamin D3, right?
Really doing that,
Should call it vitamin DHEA. Then it will make more sense.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I just group it with things like fish oil that you just need to take. It's not really an option, right? If you want your brain to work.
Right, exactly. And when you look at Tatka, for example, I mean, that's kind of steroidal also.
Yeah, but again,
the molecules you don't count that. That's 500 milligrams. Oh, I mean, you take a gram of Tatka per day and you look at the molecule and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Even more of this shit in my body.
Exactly.
So how much are you involved with the molecules, like in your line of work? Are you constantly into the molecules and then just seeing, how those things affect the body, or like
and also altering things? So I had a project where we were altering. So Trenbolone is still used in cattle here. So a project where I was altering. We could talk offline more specific details, but like altering that product. To make it more efficient, work better. Sometimes it's really obvious stuff, and sometimes it's not so obvious.
So do you get more affinity for the androgen receptor, or more blockade of the corticosteroid receptor?
More AR affinity.
Okay.
And I don't know if you saw the one we talked about. Prolactin actually increases the AR affinity as well for it. That's one of the reasons why it's assumed that Trenbolone binds more firmly is because of the prolactin increase. And the T3 decrease, and that actually might aid in the hair loss from Trenbolone as well, because on hair. Then same with the T3 drop. I mean, in cattle, it's to help them use more food versus oxidize it all.
Right.
But
you say that the prolactin acts as a cofactor, so some sort of regulator of androgen receptor sensitivity.
It increases the binding.
Oh crap! I gotta do some more.
I'll send you stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody knows that, of course, prolactin kind of downregulates your libido and can potentially cause gyno. But if it helps with results and gains,
it's a fine line. Yeah, you don't want to.
It's a fine line, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Although
what are
how
we
often
talking,
do you
like
see?
middle of the reference range or top of
Yeah,
the reference
yeah.
range
See,
or four
that's
times
probably
out
the
of
case.
it?
No, a top of the reference range at the most. I wouldn't take it out of the reference range just to take it out for
Mhm.
binding. Um, but I mean, and how many times have you even seen elevated prolactin in labs? It's not very common. Usually, it's estrogen screwing people up.
Yeah, it's the estrogen and then a progestogenic 19 or the prolactin
Yeah,
is elevated. But then you ask
but
them, what are you
from the
doing? Yeah,
estrogen,
I'm also
basically.
from the estrogen, right?
Yeah.
And then they're also smoking weed to take the
Yep.
edge
Oh,
off
yeah.
Tren.
That'll
And
do
then
it.
the libido's completely shot, right? So
Yeah,
you got
or tumor.
all the down regulating hormones high, and then also the suppressive
Yes.
effect of the weed. And
Yep.
they're like, why can't I get hard? I said, well,
Stop smoking weed.
yeah, stop smoking. Oh, and take the Tren out also, so you don't have to take the edge off. This is nothing to
Yeah.
take the edge off from.
No. Exactly right. Yeah. Maybe don't use Tren.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it's difficult to get it through to the kids, you know.
No, they
So
don't.
prolactin increases androgen receptor sensitivity. Fuck, this is new to me. Maybe I should take the vitamin B6, B5P out.
I don't know where's
Or
your
the, or the dope. I can't remember. I think the last time was like 11, so middle of the
fine.
range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a pretty high. I've seen people with non-cancerous tumors that have pretty high prolactin. You've got to be pretty high before you get a side effect from it.
Yeah, 40, 50. You know, a lot of guys
Yeah.
use growth hormone secretagogues because it's
Yep.
easier to get and supposedly cheaper.
Yeah.
And then you see their prolactin levels like 40, 50.
Oof, yeah.
Christ. Just take
No
some
thanks.
growth hormone.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, like, prolactin and growth hormone, they interact with the same receptors, you know?
Yes. Yeah, they're very closely related.
Yeah.
And some guys get prolactin sides from growth hormone.
Yeah.
It's rare, but I've seen it.
That. Yeah, it's rare. Yeah, but it happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's the funny thing is, like, insulin growth factor 1, of course, very similar to the insulin, right? Then they interact for each other's receptors. What was it, 10% binding affinity on paper? And then a prolactin and growth hormone interact with each other's receptors as well.
Yep. And we talked about that previously before the video about the IGF binding to the insulin receptor on adipose tissue, right? So that you're not store as much fat. So that might be one of the effects, right? Because in theory, when you take growth hormone, right, the fat loss is capped at like 1.7 for a guy your size, right?
Yeah.
But yet if you took 6 units or 8 units or 20 units, you notice the fat loss continues, right?
Right.
And it's most likely through that effect, not so much direct HGH effect, on fat loss, because you've gone way over where that occurs.
Right. So you got a little bit of hormone sensitive lipase activity, right, for the fat loss, and then blocking the insulin receptor through IGF-1 is actually how the fat loss continues.
That's what I would say. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then you hammer the beta-2 adrenergic receptor on top of that, and then you're good to go, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Put some Clen in there.
Yeah, as long as it's not ephedrine, though, right? Because
ephedrine, and like blocking the alpha-2 and activating the beta-2, that's not a good idea. Most people feel absolutely horrible doing that. Of your yohimbine and ephedrine together, that was a combination.
I'm not a fan of that at all.
No,
yohimbine makes me feel horrible.
Yeah, it's weird. I like yohimbine solo, but then as soon as I combine it with something else, like 3 milligrams before fasted cardio, that's totally fine. Now we discussed earlier about like this delayed response between lipolysis and growth hormone administrations, and somebody stumped me on the Vigorous Q&A. Said, yeah, but Kurt said that it takes a couple hours for growth hormone to potentiate fat loss to its maximum extent. So taking growth hormone before fasted cardio and then doing fasted cardio has no fucking effect. So what's the story behind this?
There's generally a 3-hour, absorption before, if you inject, it takes about 3 hours to reach, max blood level. So if you were to inject immediately and then go to fasted cardio, you're missing the window.
Ah, right. But if you do intramuscular administrations, would that yield faster lipolysis?
A little bit, but I think if you just injected at night before you went to bed, you'd still have elevated, levels, and fasted cardio would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I've always done it before fasted cardio, but now I have to go back into PubMed to see if this was correct.
Well, I say, like I said, I'll send you my book. I have all 500 growth hormone studies in there.
Oh shit!
So it'll save you a lot of time.
Save me a lot of time because ChatGPT doesn't index and research properly.
No, mine's in order, so you can just scroll. You can click on the links and stuff.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. I have my own insulin and growth hormone ebook, but it's mostly for practical application
Okay.
on when to do what. And I didn't include any references because I just purely wrote it out of personal experience. And I didn't want to cherry pick studies to, kind of prove my point. But I'm due for an update on these books, but I'll probably just make videos about it.
Yeah. I just did the other angle, right? I said, I started it with school, and then Paul was like, you should sell this. But the other thing is and same with my content online, I just try to avoid telling people the doses and how to use things. At least here, not such a wise idea.
No, I know. I talked with Dr. Scott Stevenson about this also. He doesn't give like practical application and dosing advice because he's scared. But you're studying to be a doctor, right? And he's a doctor. So you have a medical license to lose. I can't lose my bachelor degree of computer sciences.
Yes, you're right. You can't use it. When it also just becomes a thing, right? The last thing you want to do is harm someone if you just give generic, advice.
But even if the information is as good as you can be, in the end, you never know how it's going to be interpreted and received. And I see more people making mistakes with information and advice that I would never give. They get it somewhere else, or they come to their own conclusions and then try to reel them back in. What I usually do in my videos is I try to, explain the mechanics behind it, and then give some sort of recommendation regarding dosages. But I also try to inspire people to start learning more, which not everybody does.
No,
obviously,
most people don't.
No, which is unfortunate. But then through getting your hands dirty and getting some side effects, then you realize, like, you know what? If I do a little bit more research, then maybe Steve was right.
Yeah, I mean, we all do that, right? We all do dumb things when we first start, and then you're miserable.
Absolutely.
And you're not sleeping at
I still
night.
do dumb things. I love it. I love half the experimentation, and then sometimes the scientific evidence isn't really there. Like for example, you have tirzepatide, right? That's the new GLP-1 and GIP drug. And then I looked into the scientific literature, and activating the gastric inhibitory polypeptide receptor on adipose tissue makes fat go in and out. So it's basically opening the key, similar to insulin, but it can also promote or improve lipolysis.
Yep.
So I figured, wait a minute, glucagon does the same thing. And it liberates adipose tissue from, or triglycerides and glucose from storing tissue. So I combined GLP-1 with GIP in the form of tirzepatide and a little bit of glucagon. I ran the experiment. I got phenomenal fat loss, and now a product like this is coming to market.
Of course. And no money for
not because I talked about it. It was
already
in development.
You never know.
No. It was already under development. But so I came to the same conclusion as the people wanting to make a product about it through their own, because this information wasn't there when I ran the experiment. They were going to produce this compound, but they didn't include what it contained. So I came to this conclusion based on the research, and they did the same thing. I ran the experiment. I got phenomenal fat loss. I made a video about it, and now it's available. So this is what I like by this community. Like I'm just, I pieced it together in my brain with basic biology. I'm like, this makes sense. Let's give it a try. And then other people come to the same conclusion. Of course, they're big pharma, so they can do the research and the clinical trials, and then now they have a product. So this is why I like this kind of stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
You just do the experiment, total bro science, then maybe later on it will be proven.
Totally.
With a product or scientific literature. Yeah. Just a shame that, when you're ahead of the curve, most people don't really appreciate it yet.
No, but I think people appreciate that you're ahead of the curve on most things.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes I make do stupid shit. That's part of the game, right?
Delete the video and move on.
Yeah, well, you can't do that. They'll upload it somewhere else, unfortunately. This is YouTube. So when are you going to start your own channel, man? I mean, you have so much knowledge.
We're doing that. It's in the works now. My wife is working on the back end stuff for me.
Right.
She's the one who makes my stuff look pretty.
Yeah, you need a wife to make you look pretty. That's what.
Yeah, like she made my website.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
it's the best thing, man. I mean, if you can get her on board, like my wife's been part of the Vigorous crew since the beginning.
Yeah,
so
my wife
paid her
does
salary
for me.
Yeah, I pay her a salary out of the money that I make from YouTube and stuff. And then she just saves me so much time because, for guys like that, it's better just if you focus on researching and producing.
Yes. Yeah, I
and
don't
all
have
the
time.
little things that there are little shit that revolves around. And you're still actively going to school, right?
Yes.
So how much longer do you have on that?
It'll take about 4.5 years left.
Oh shit.
It's long. And then if I wanted to practice, then I would have a residency and a fellowship. And then in this state, it also requires 2 years practicing as a general practitioner. So I'd be in my 60s, so that's not going to happen.
Oh man,
I would just keep it. I honestly, the point at this time, I think, is just to help us, to help the community at this point. I don't, though,
right.
and random pharmaceutical stuff, but I don't think it really has. I don't really see it as a career. I enjoy being self-employed and coaching and actually helping people that want to be helped instead of helping sick people.
Exactly. Yeah, and of course, if you can, it's basically like you go to work for somebody else for 5 years and you pick apart the business, right? And you find all the mistakes and all the things they did wrong, and then you go self-employed and you're like, fuck this, I know a way better approach. Right? You're doing the same thing. You're learning as much as you can from this, avenue of university, and then you just pick what you like for the community. And well, I mean, you've talked with Paul and you talk with me, and I'm sure there's plenty of space for everybody out there, but yeah, YouTube can be quite lucrative.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and I love it. I think Paul and I are recording a video later today.
Oh, another one. Oh, you're busy, huh?
One on dietary fat.
Dietary fat. Yeah. Give me the scoop. This podcast will release probably later than Paul's. So what is the cliffs?
No, I'm just going over the whole process that the human body does with fat, from digestion to. I think sometimes we have to back up and explain things in more simple
biology,
terms.
Right?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't have the knowledge like you have of these things, and they just don't understand. Like when I eat butter, where does it go?
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just going over from mouth to storage to synthesis from other things to why fats are saturated, why they're unsaturated, what the difference is, what's a trans fat.
Right.
And then why the essential fatty acids are the essential fatty acids, and then what the difference between like DHA and EPA are.
Right.
Good. I don't think it's nothing groundbreaking. I think it's more just a foundational thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're trying to do.
Like as an educator, you'll start to realize that it's very hard to get like in a concise way to get your message across, where people can also make it actionable, because that's the content that they want from us. How much milligrams do I take? Basically,
I know they don't. And
that's what they want to know.
I know, Dr.
And then you got to put them on the side of the class and said, okay, well, let's do the basic biology first, so you understand why and how,
and then we get to the dose.
And then you get to the dose, right? And then you have the timestamps there with an overview of the protocol, and then you see your audience retention goes like this, and then suddenly up at the dosing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what can you do, man? I mean, it's but there's plenty of people out there who love this kind of long content because everybody was hammering like, get Kurt on. Oh yeah, you should. Yeah, dude. Yeah, they like your shit.
I'm flattered. Wow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's Dr. Todd always tells me, and he's similar to us. He always tells me that I think bottom up versus average people. And you're bottom up as well. Most people think top down, right? So most people say, I want to know the milligram, and then maybe I want to learn how it works, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Whereas like you and I will think, we go over the biology, right? And then we'll eventually get to that part. And he said, the problem is it gets lost in translation sometimes with normal people. Like you said, the views will go down and then go back up, and you get to
yeah. It's and you can't please everybody, and then especially if it's some of the things you want to explain for like 40 minutes, which it should be sometimes. Like when you go into really novel new stuff, I have like videos that's like 4 parts, and then I get to the and then I look back at it and it's, I wish I had this when I was 18. I would have loved this shit. Back then I loved this shit too, but nobody watches it.
No.
And I'm wondering, like, why don't I have 100,000 subscribers? It's why I procrastinate until I get to the dose.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for guys like us, I mean, I think like Mad Medicine, right? That guy, he has like 40-minute videos, and I could just sit through them, and I just watch the entire thing. He has like a deep dive on androgen receptors and clomiphene monotherapy, and it's pure fucking gold, right? And he just talks because he knows the subject intimately. and some overlays. Nothing fancy, but it's just the basic lecture that you would get at school. Like a half-ass prepared PowerPoint, but it gets the job done.
Yep.
But yeah, you lose like 90% of other
totally.
people.
No one cares. No one cares.
Nobody gives a shit, dude.
No.
It's
I mean, and when you're researching, I mean, half the time I'm reading this stuff and I'm falling asleep while I'm reading it, right? You end up reading the same thing 3 times over.
No, I'm usually full with nootropics when I do research.
I mean, I can't tell you how many, like reading the growth hormone book, how many times I nodded out trying to read,
we have 500 studies to go through. Yeah. That's a lot.
Oh man,
I'm trying to memorize that because like the problem is if you go through PubMed, of course you have like the history, right? So it's all the links that you clicked are like purple, but sometimes that resets when you do a lot of research, and then you end up reading the same study 3 times.
Yep.
And you start doing the citations and you look for duplicates and you're like,
I know, it's horrible. I had 3 computers open at the same time and my phone, so I would go back and forth between the 3 of them looking at stuff and cross.
Oh no. You should only do that if you're trading stock in cryptocurrency.
No, because I don't want to keep clicking on the same links over and over again.
No, it's crazy. Yeah. And then of course, like if you really put in the work, there's not enough intelligent people out there to really appreciate, which is a shame.
Well, hopefully we can change that.
It is changing. Yeah. Are you coming to the Olympia or Swiss by any chance?
I was planning on Swiss. Yes. Next year, I will definitely be at all of them. You're going to be at Swiss?
Yeah, I'll be at Swiss. I have like a 15-minute presentation and about synthetic carrier oils and propylene glycol, ethioconanolone, right? One of these testosterone metabolites that they thought induced fever, but it's actually the fucking carrier oil that they used in the 60s. Yeah. They use propylene glycol, and then you look at like 30 years later, propylene glycol is now banned from all medical fields because kids got like anaphylactic shock.
Yes, I see it. It's used in chemotherapy still, and you see people after they've gone through it. It causes a lot of like long-term effects.
The propylene glycol is part of Mircera, which is erythropoietin. And they have this long-acting, and people get inflammation from that shit also. Yeah,
it's bad. It's in every. I don't know. In Thailand, in the US, it's in everything. If it says natural flavoring, it's in there.
Here they somehow got ethyl oleate approved as a carrier oil.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
Unigen. No, that's glycol, ethyl oleate. Glycol is the one that they use in the Western world for injectable Anadrol and SARMs and shit. No, so here Unigen, that FDA approved a brand here, which is like a branch of Genesis. They use ethyl oleate, and somehow they got it approved, and then 4 other Thai brands started using it. March and Meridian, they produce Testolic and Cypionax, and it's all in ethyl oleate, and a lot of people get terrible systemic inflammation from it.
It's horrible.
But Arachi's oil also causes inflammation. Yep. And guess what Trenbolone was produced in? Primobolan.
Yep.
Yeah.
They didn't know. They didn't know back then.
No, they didn't know. But so I always say the Trenbolone was always shit. It's always highly inflammatory. Even the Primobolan, That's why half of these guys felt like, oh, this is so strong. No, it's like test fluid that's coming up after the injection. Like, oh, this is working great. No, it's like the carrier oil.
2 amps a week is all I needed. It's
You feel mad inflamed. Yeah. So this is what the presentation will be about. Okay. Because I'm intimately familiar. So I'll see you at Swiss, and then you'll meet a lot of people that have been watching Todd and Paul and this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
You're like, okay, I got to get my ass on YouTube because
I need to be on there like now.
Yeah, you should. I'll send you a clip. You can post this part right away.
Cool. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. I'd love to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah,
I guess I'll see you in about 1.5 weeks.
Yep.
And then we can size up. That's roast. I'm 200 pounds now, so everybody's, especially Chase, he's gonna dwarf me to shit.
I'm sure. Big. How tall are you?
5'9".
Okay.
Yeah, 5'9". Yeah.
You got
I'll be right in the middle, and then everybody's like, "Oh, that's
Paul's
Steve."
Big.
Paul's tall as hell.
Yeah, he's big. Yeah.
And tall. I think Todd is like 5'9" also.
No, he's shorter than me. I think he's 5'4".
Oh, he's 5'4".
He's little, yeah.
Oh my God, that's why he has these axes. I'll ask ask him next time.
Hanging with
Why
me.
don't you come on? Why don't you come on the weekend anabolic bodybuilding podcast on Saturday? I never see you there.
Oh, I should. I haven't been asked.
Oh yeah, that's what Paul does. He only sends the bros, and then he does it. So, when can I come on? See, I didn't know you want to come on. He sends me a link.
Oh, I'll tell him. I talk to him every day.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll see you Saturday there. Then.
Yeah.
Oh no, Saturday
Yeah,
I'll be in China, so I'll see you at Swiss.
Yeah,
I'll see you there.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where can people find you?
Atomiclifecoaching.com is my website, and Kurt.Havens on Instagram.
And what's the YouTube going to be?
I don't know yet. That's hopefully something related to Atomic Life Coaching. We will see.
Atomic Kurt.
Yeah, we could do that. There you go.
Yeah, Atomic Kurt. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, I'll link it down below in case you want to follow Kurt. Give him a follow because he's up and coming. A lot of cool content coming. So I'd love to talk to you again soon, and I'll see you at Swiss, buddy. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Cool.
Take care.
Take care.